The Pale or the European race don't have a native land. They have always invaded, never being the first. You see, whenever you confront a so-called European, or Canaanite, about their origin, it can only go back to a certain point before it turns into mythology, or something irrelevant to race or nationality. In order to be a part of history, you must have concrete proof such as the pictures on the walls of ancient caves or burial tombs. Or even better, carved in stone to withstand the test of time. Otherwise, you will fade with time and become a myth. We, as Moors, are the indigenous nation of every continent on this planet. There are offshoots breeds in every race, such as the Celts. There are Nubian breeds of Celts, and then there are the mixed breed of Celts. There are the Nubian original seed of Libyans. Then there is the pale Libyans. There are the Nubian original dark-skinned Moroccans, then there are European Moroccans. There are the original dark-skinned Egyptian, then there are the Greek Egyptians. There are the original dark-skinned Algerians, then there are the pale Algerians. By Nubian, I mean a Moor. The Tamahu, Caucasian race or the pale race impregnates his seed everywhere he can. He doesn't know his origin or where he came from. The Caucasian race likes to refer to themselves as Europeans, when in actuality, European is not a nationality. By that I mean, when they are telling you of their origin, it always ends up with some mythological gods. For instance, if I ask where did white people come from? They say Europe. Where in Europe? From the cave, which is the meaning of the word Hittite cave dweller. They were created in the caves, which I will explain later. The word Europe comes from the goddess Europa. So where is the origin? If you trace Europe back past a certain time, it didn't even exist. The place known as Europe today, in ancient times, was divided by two rivers, namely the Rhine and the Danube. The south and west side of this frontier, which would be Portugal, Spain, Italy and France, were civilized provinces of this empire. The north and east of this frontier were inhabited by the Caucasian or barbarians, whom the civilized world had almost no knowledge of. If you look at any nationality of the European race, you will find that there is no way to trace back their history. They don't have an origin or a nationality on this planet, so they have to make it up. When you look up the word Europe or European, there is no meaning or word breakdown. For example, the continent of Europe itself was named after the Greek mythological goddess Europa. Europa, a mortal princess, daughter of Agenor and sister of Cadmus. Zeus, as he often did, fell in love and decided he must have Europa. He changed himself into a white bull, and while she was bathing at the seashore, he lured onto his back and swam off to Crete. Europa was also given a spear that never missed its mark and a dog that always found her prey. Europa later married Asterius, king of Crete. When she died, Zeus made her a fertility goddess. Taken from a comprehensive dictionary of the gods, page 65, by N. S. Baumgartner. Notice that it says Zeus turned himself into a white bull to lure Europa. This is why the white man calls himself white, or the white race, which is referring to this white bull. In actuality, the white race is not white because white is synonymous with pure, and he is a degenerated gene. This is his subliminal way of saying he is pure, and you being the opposite, are not. This is not true. They claim to be the Caucasian race. They are from the Caucasus Mountains, which again is a place, not a nationality or race. They can't even lay claim on the word Caucasian, and don't want to, once they see what it means. According to the Reference Library Dictionary, Caucasian means, of, relating to, or being a major human racial division traditionally distinguished by physical characteristics, such as very light to brown skin pigmentation and straight to wavy or curly hair, and including peoples indigenous to Europe, Northern Africa, Western Asia, and India. No longer in scientific use. Notice it said, brown skin pigmentation. Who are they trying to fool? Also notice the definition is said to no longer be in scientific use. I'm sure you can see why. In fact, when you look at the word Caucasian, you will find that it refers to the inhabitants of the Caucasus Mountains. Caucasian, which is Carcass Asian, means deteriorating Asian. These Asians are the Hindus, who are also known as the Aryans. Aryan is from the Sanskrit word meaning noble. The Hindu or Asian man is the same as the Caucasian man, and if you were to strip the color off from the Aryan Hindus or East Indians, you will get an albino Hindu or a deteriorating Asian, a Caucasian. They both have the same features and face structures. The Holy Tablets, Chapter 3, Tablet 3, verses 150 to 154, a region between the Black Sea on the west and the Caspian Sea on the east. A great mountain range, which raises to 18,510 feet at Mount Elbrus, from the word Abras meaning leprosy in Ashuric. Caucasia, a part of Russia, has an area of 170,000 square miles. The Greeks named it Caucasia, the home of the Kawaja, also called Flugelrods, as they are called in Al-Mahdi or what is called Germany today. Their original name is Halab beans, or Halab, to distinguish themselves from the Caucasians. The Caucasus Mountain is in between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. And I know you wouldn't want to identify with the word black. If you take the Caspian Sea, and put it over the Tigris-Euphrates River, it would fit perfectly, and the Caucasus Mountains would be overlaying the Phoenician Valley, which consists of Mount Seir, the mountain that the Horites inhabited. Phoenicia is also the land of Haran, where Lot went after his father died, as mentioned in Genesis 11:31, and Haran is also the name of Lot's father, which means mountaineer. The land of Canaan is the land of Haran, and this is where the Caucasian people lived. Some of the children of Canaan inhabited mountainous regions, because the climate was more suitable for their lack of pigmentation. The Horites, meaning mountaineer, were one of these tribes that lived in the mountains. They lived in Mount Seir, also called Mount Hor. Mount Seir is a range of mountains that covered much of Edom. Edom is in present-day southern Israel and Jordan. The Amorite, meaning mountain dweller, is another tribe of Canaan that lived in the mountains. The Amorites lived in East Canaan and west of Jordan. If you look up the word nationality, you will see what they have doesn't fall within the meaning of this definition. According to Mindscape Complete Reference Library, the word nationality means the status of belonging to a particular nation by origin, birth, or naturalization. There is no continent where they can be found originally. They are the ones that conquered or took someone else's land, and then exiled the indigenous inhabitants. Then the Dutch, who came into South Africa, and generations of them were born there, eventually calling themselves Afrikaners, where they are not accepted in Africa as a people. Ask yourself this: how can they set up apartheid in a country where the indigenous, and still the majority of the population, are Moors? If they wanted to be separated, they should have stayed in the continent they claim to be theirs. The European pale race are like a bump, and that's why Mother Nature is trying to get rid of them. And even in Australia, the Aborigines are rising up against them, trying to take their land back. They want to claim the rights to their land. England sent their criminals, which were the Dutch and the Irish, to Australia. They are the ones that commit most of the crimes in Australia. Now they are beating up the Aborigines, who are rightfully trying to take back what is theirs. The pale man is never given any naturalization rights from any government of any country. So, they don't have any nationality. Any biblical word that is used to refer to them, such as Amorite, Caucasian, Horite, Hittite, is a mountainous place. They don't belong to a particular nation. They weren't born anywhere, because they were an artificially created being, not even a human being. So by the previous definition, they are a race without a nationality. Whenever they trace their history to Greece, they always go back to mythology. The European history begins in Greece sometime between 1200 and 800 BC. These approximate dates, by no means, mark the beginning of human civilization in Europe, where various cultures had arisen during the millennia of prehistory. However, neither these cultures nor the older adjacent civilizations of Egypt and the Near East influenced European development to the extent that Greek civilization did. The early Greeks were among thousands of Indo-Europeans who swarmed into Western Europe from Central Asia. Beginning after 1200 BC, the nomadic Dorians settled in the mountainous peninsula of Greece and its offshore islands. They developed a wide variety of new ways of living from the sea and by trade. The Dorians were one of a Hellenic people that invaded Greece around 1100 BC, and remained culturally and linguistically distinct within the Greek world. The word Dorian is from the Latin Dorianus, from Dorans, from Greek Dorios. Now, if you look in the dictionary under Greece, you get the meaning, Hellas or Hellas, officially Hellenic Republic. The name Hellas is taken from Helen, daughter of Zeus and Leda, and Hellenes, son of Deucalion and Pyrrha. His sons, Doris, Xuthus, and Aeolus, were the progenitors of the principal Greek nations, the Dorians, Ionians, Achaeans, and Aeolians. The Hellenistic culture is the Greek culture, as well as the German culture, being that they both share the same mythology. This makes them linked to each other, which is why you will find Germans with similar names, such as Helen, the Greek goddess, where you get the word hell from. It is no coincidence that the witch responsible for modern Freemasonry etc. is Helena P. von aka Madame Blavatsky, who was of Austria, Hungary Germanic descent. However, Helen or He, the German goddess, was the goddess of the furthest section of Niflheim. This word Niflheim sounds out the Hebrew word Nephilium, meaning those who fell down or were cast down to earth, both stemming from the same root. The Greeks also try to link themselves back to the Ionians of the Bible. However, the Bible has not verified itself as fact. It's what you call accepted fact. It has not been confirmed or proven as of yet. There are confirmed facts and there are accepted facts. The pictures on the wall are confirmed facts. The Bible is an accepted fact because nothing in it has been proven. The Caucasian race has no pictures on walls that tell of their history, as with the Sumerians, Egyptians, Native Americans, Mayans, Chinese, Aztecs, etc. The Arabs have put themselves in a bad position when it comes to verifying your history. Because they believe that you are not allowed to draw pictures, they have not allowed themselves to be carved in stone, which would last through time. So if your society cannot verify itself, then it becomes a myth. And that is why so-called Europeans cannot be traced back in history. Most of your so-called European countries have Germanic roots. If you look up the word German, you will find it means offshoot. According to the reference library, the word German comes from the Middle English Germain, from Old French, from Latin Germanus, from Hermen, meaning offshoot. This confirms right here that the Germans were an offshoot of the Greeks, which is why they share the same mythologies. Now let's take a look at the meaning of Scotland. When you deal with the word Scotland, it breaks up into two words, which are Scot, taking you back to Irishman, and land, meaning the solid ground of the earth, from Middle English, from Old English, see Lend and Indo-European roots. The Scottish got its name from the Middle English Scots, Scotsman, from Old English Scotus, Scotsman, meaning Irishman, from Late Latin Scot, Irishman. Latin is the spoken language of the Romans, which means the Romans named them. This tells you that these Scottish are really Irishmen from Ireland, and there is still no nationality. Now let's take a look at the Romans. The reference library defines the word Romans as, of, or relating to ancient or modern Rome or its people or culture, from Middle English, from Old English Roman, or from Old French Roman, both from Latin Romance, from Roma, Rome. Rom is also another name for the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Empire was named after mythological characters, named Romulus and Remus. Romulus, in Roman legend, was the founder of Rome. Romulus and his twin, Remus, were sons of Mars and Rhea Silvia, daughter of Numitor, king of Alba Longa. Amulius, usurper of Numitor's throne, threw them in the Tiber, but they floated ashore. They were suckled by a she-wolf and reared by a shepherd. When grown, they slew Amulius and made Numitor king. They then founded a city, traditionally 753 BC, on the spot where they were rescued from the Tiber. They later quarreled, and Romulus killed Remus. Romulus populated Rome with fugitives from other countries and gave them wives abducted from the Sabine tribe. Rome again takes you back to a legend, mythology. Now let's take a look at Spain. Spain is a country of southwest Europe comprising most of the Iberian Peninsula and the Balearic and Canary Islands. Inhabited since the Stone Age, the region was colonized by Phoenicians and Greeks and later ruled by Carthage and Rome after 201 BC. Again taking you back to Phoenicians, which is just the color purple. Spain also takes you back to Greek and Rome mythology, no nationality. Now let's take a look at the Swiss. Swiss is of or relating to Switzerland, its people or culture, from the French Suisse, from Middle High German Switzer, from Swiss, Switzerland. This takes you back to the Germans, who were of Greece, who believed that they were descendants of Helen, daughter of Zeus. Switzerland was named after Schwyz, one of its ancient cantons, which means a corner of land, again no nationality. Now let's take a look at the Albanians. Albania, one of Europe's smallest countries, is situated in the western part of the Balkan Peninsula. It has a 360-kilometer, 225 miles, coastline on the Adriatic and Ionian Seas and is bounded on the north and east by Yugoslavia and on the southeast by Greece. The Albanians' name for their country, Shqipëri, which means Eagle's Land, aptly suggests Albania's isolated, rugged terrain and its strongly independent people. For a Balkan state, Albania has an unusually homogeneous ethnic composition, with Albanians comprising 96% of the population. They are believed to be descendants of the ancient Illyrians, who were among the earliest inhabitants of the Balkan Peninsula. And Illyrians are, of or relating to ancient Illyria or its peoples, languages, or cultures. A member of one of the ancient peoples that inhabited Illyria. And Illyria is an ancient region of the Balkan Peninsula on the Adriatic coast. Occupied in prehistoric times by an Indo-European speaking people, the area became the Roman province of Illyricum after the final conquest of the Illyrians in 2035 to 2033 BC. The ancient name Illyria referred to the western coastal region of the Balkan Peninsula, territory that is now included in Albania, Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, and Slovenia. It is widely accepted that the present-day Albanians are probably the descendants of the ancient Illyrians, an Indo-European people who originally settled there about the 10th century BC. During the 6th century BC, the Greeks established a number of colonies on the seaboard of southern Illyria. In the 3rd century BC, Illyria asserted itself as an independent political power and expanded its borders southward and eastward. In 168 to 167 BC, however, Illyria's coastal areas were conquered by the Romans, who established the colony of Illyricum there. In succeeding decades, Rome extended its control over the entire region. The Roman emperors Aurelian, Diocletian, and Constantine were originally from Illyria. The Albanians comprised two major subgroups, the Gegs, or Gegs, to the north of the Shkumbi River and the Tosks to the south. From the 7th century BC, the Greeks colonized the coastal areas of what is now Albania. In the following centuries, they became a cultural influence on the Illyrians. In about 350 BC, an independent kingdom, Illyria, emerged in the region near Shkodër. Illyria and Epirus to the south were conquered by Rome in 168 BC. With the division of the Roman Empire in the 4th century AD, Albania came under Byzantine rule. Actual Byzantine power in the area was weak, however, and in the succeeding centuries, Albania was overrun by the Goths, Bulgars, Slavs, Serbs and Normans. In the early 15th century, the Turks began their conquest of the region. In 1443 AD, Albanian resistance to the Turks was organized under the leadership of Skanderbeg, who has become glorified as the national hero. Skanderbeg expelled the Turks and kept Albania independent of Turkish rule for more than 20 years. Soon after his death in 1468 AD, however, the Turks reasserted their power, and Albania became part of the Ottoman Empire. During the nearly 5 centuries of Ottoman rule, most Albanians converted to Islam, and a substantial number immigrated to other Mediterranean regions. The country remained undeveloped and neglected. Still, this tells you nothing of their nationality. Now let's take a look at Yugoslavia. According to the Comprehensive Etymology Dictionary of the English Language, Yugoslav is an inhabitant of Yugoslavia. Compounded of Serbo-Croatian Hugo, meaning south, from Jug, meaning south, south wind, noon, and Slav, Serbo-Croatian Jug derives from Oslav. Jugu, whence also Ochek, Slovak, etc., Jew, Czech G, meaning south, whence also Oslav, Jutro, morning. Yugoslavia is a country of Southeast Europe bordering on the Adriatic Sea. It was formed in 1918 AD. As the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes after the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and was renamed Yugoslavia in 1929 AD. Now let's take a look at France. France is a country of Western Europe on the Atlantic Ocean and the English Channel. Paris is the capital. Other major cities include Marseille, Lyons, Toulouse and Nice. The people of France are called French. French is from Middle English from Old English Francisque, Frankish from Franca, Frank. The word Frank is from the Middle English, from Old English Franca, Old French Frank, both from Late Latin Francos, of Germanic origin. The Franks are a member of one of the Germanic tribes of the Rhine region in the early Christian era, and the Germans came from Greece. Franks are also a member of the West Teutonic people. Teutonic, which comes from the root word tent, means of or relating to the ancient Teutons, of or relating to the Germanic languages or their speakers. Teut is Germanic, from Latin Teutonicus from Teutoni, Teutons. The Teutons are a member of an ancient people, probably of Germanic or Celtic origin, who lived in Jutland. The Franks derived their name from their chief weapon, a Franca javelin, which is a light spear. Thus the Franks go back to a weapon, again no nationality. Now let's take a look at Paris. Paris is the capital and largest city of France. It is located in the north-central part of the country on the Seine River. Paris is from Latin Luteria Parisiorum, in late Latin also Parish, which is the name of a Gallic tribe. And Gallic comes from the word Gaul, which is an ancient region of Western Europe, south and west of the Rhine River, west of the Alps, and north of the Pyrenees, corresponding roughly to modern-day France and Belgium. The Europeans used the name Paris from Paris, son of Priam and Hecuba, originated from Greek mythology, as the Prince of Troy, whose abduction of Helen provoked the Trojan War. Again going back to Greek mythology. Now let's take a look at the Turks. The Turks are natives or inhabitants of Turkey. The name is derived from the Middle English, from Old French Ture, from Turkish Turk, from Old Turkic Turk, meaning strong. Turks, or Turkic people, are the principal descendants of large bands of nomads who roamed in the Altai Mountains, and thus are also called the Altaic peoples, in northern Mongolia and on the steppes of Central Asia during the early centuries of the Christian era. Their language is a branch of the Ural-Altaic family, characterized by the attachment of prepositions, inflections, and other grammatical forms as suffixes to nouns, by vowel harmony, and by clarity of structure. Physically, most of the Turkic people resemble the Mongols, although those of the West have been so mixed with conquered native peoples that they cannot be distinguished from other Mediterranean ethnic groups. In the 6th century, the original Central Asian Turkic nomads established their first great empire in 6th century AD, a nomadic confederation that they called Sky Turk and that the Chinese called Tukyu. This empire stretched across the steppes from Transoxiana to northern China and the Pacific Ocean and developed some of the characteristic features of subsequent Turkish culture: military organization, tactics, weapons, political, social structure and titles. Shamanistic in religion and tribal in organization, Gokturk broke up in the 7th century. The eastern part of the Confederation became assimilated with Chinese civilization and gave rise to the Mongols. The western part contracted and ultimately was strongly influenced by the Islamic civilization of the Middle East. In the 8th century, the Karluks settled in the Ili and Chu river valleys between the Issyk-Kul and Balkhash lakes. The Uyghur remained in northern Mongolia, and the Kyrgyz wandered in the steppes to the north. The Oghuz, or Guz, Turks, called the Turkmen, in Europe, dominated the area between Mongolia and Transoxiana, where contacts with Muslim missionaries, merchants, and warriors led to further assimilation. At the same time, many other Turks in Central Asia were converted to the Christian Nestorian Church, Buddhism, and Zoroastrianism, resulting in a great deal of mutual interaction. Turkey is also compared to the color turquoise. Again, giving no nationality or origin. Now let's take a close look at Britain. Britain is the island of Great Britain during pre-Roman, Roman, and early Anglo-Saxon times before the reign of Alfred the Great. The name is derived from Britannia, which the Romans used for the portion of the island that they occupied. Britain is not even a country in itself. It is an isle, a part of the United Kingdoms, including the countries of England, Wales, and Scotland on the island of Great Britain, and Northern Ireland on the island of Ireland. The capital is London. A person native to Great Britain is a Briton or a Brit, meaning a native or inhabitant of Great Britain. One of a Celtic people inhabiting ancient Britain at the time of the Roman invasion. The word Brit comes from the Middle English Britune, Celt, Britain from Anglo-Norman Britune from Latin Britons, meaning of Celtic origin. The word Brit is from the Aramaic, Hebrew, word bereth, brith meaning covenant. That covenant is mentioned in Genesis 15:18, 17-2, is the covenant or rights made between Abraham and Yahuwah, and in Genesis 17:4, it states, "As for me, behold, my covenant, bereth, is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations," Bui meaning Gentile nations. We Moors are a part of Abraham's covenant, because we are of his seed. We migrated to Britain first and named them. Britain or England is also named Albion, from where the word albino is derived, meaning a person or an animal lacking normal pigmentation, with the result being that the skin and hair are abnormally white or milky and the eyes have a pink or blue iris and a deep red pupil. From Portuguese from albo, white from Latin albus, see albo in Indo-European roots. You will also find a lake in Europe, of central Italy southeast of Rome in an extinct volcanic crater, that is named Albano, also a derivative of the word albino. Saxon is a member of a West Germanic tribal group that inhabited northern Germany and invaded Britain in the 5th and 6th centuries AD with the Angles and Jutes. It comes from Middle English from late Latin Saxo-Saxon, meaning of Germanic origin, see second Indo-European roots. Saxon adjective. When you look up the word Angles and Jutes, you will find Angle, a member of a Germanic people that migrated to England from southern Jutland in the 5th century AD, founded the kingdoms of Northumbria, East Anglia, and Mercia, and together with the Jutes and Saxons formed the Anglo-Saxon peoples, from Latin Anglo, the Angles of Germanic origin. Jutes, a member of a Germanic people that migrated to England from southern Jutland in the 5th century AD, founded the kingdoms of Northumbria, East Anglia, and Mercia, and together with the Jutes and Saxons formed the Anglo-Saxon peoples. So the word Saxon does not tell you anything of origin or nationality. They are members of a Germanic people. So their origin lies within Germany, which again, ties into Greek mythology. Hungary, no root meaning of the word at all, which is a statement in itself. They don't have an origin. You only see a reference to the country itself. According to the reference library for Windows, Hungary is a country of Central Europe. Hungary became an independent kingdom under Saint Stephen, ruled 9977 to 1038 AD. It passed to the Turks after 1526 AD, and was later divided between the Ottoman Empire and Austria, subsequently becoming part of the dual monarchy of Austria-Hungary, from 1867 AD until 1918 AD, when it achieved independence again. You find this same instance with Romania, a country of Southeast Europe with a short coastline on the Black Sea. Originally a Roman province, the area was united in 1861 AD and became independent in 1878 AD. Bucharest is the capital and the largest city. If you were to look at the word Romania etymologically, you can see the word Rome, which will take you back to the legend of Romulus and Remus. However, they will not admit that is where it came from. Bulgaria is a country of Southeast Europe with a short coastline on the Black Sea. Originally a Roman province, the area was united in 1861 AD and became independent in 1878 AD. Bucharest is the capital and the largest city. The word Bulgarian is from medieval Latin Bulgaria, from Bulgari, meaning the men from Bulg. And these Bulg men were a tribe of the Irish peoples. So Bulgarians are an offshoot of the Irish. Sweden is a country of northern Europe on the eastern Scandinavian peninsula. By the 17th century, it was a major European power, controlling most of the Baltic coast. The people of Sweden are called Swedes, which means a native or inhabitant of Sweden, of Low German, from Middle Low German Swede or Dutch Swede, from Middle Dutch Swede. Here we see another group of Germanic people, and as mentioned previously, the Germans go back to Greece, which ties back to Hea, a German goddess, or Helen, a Greek mythological queen. Denmark, a country of northern Europe on Jutland and adjacent islands. It was unified in the 10th century by the Viking king Harald Bluetooth, died 985 AD, who converted the people to Christianity. The root word Dane is taken from the Middle English alteration, influenced by Old Norse Daner, Dane, of Danish from Old English Danese from Dene, the Danes Dene, or Danes named after the moon deity Dina, Dina or Diana. So Denmark's origin also ties back to mythology. Norway, a country of northern Europe in the western part of the Scandinavian peninsula. Beginning in the 9th century, Norway was ruled by numerous petty kingdoms, and raiding parties reached Normandy, Iceland, Greenland, islands off Scotland and Ireland, and the coast of the New World. The people of Norway are called Nordics, which means, of or relating to a human physical type exemplified by the tall, narrow-headed, light-skinned, blonde-haired peoples of Scandinavia. They are descendants of the beings from Pleiades and Aldebaran. When you look at these exercise machines, Nordic Track, Nautilus and even stores called Nordstrom, of clothing called Nautica, it ties back to what they call the Nordic race. Coming from beings from the Aldebaran constellation, who were blonde-haired and blue-eyed, a race that Hitler was trying to breed. And these Nautilus machines are done for the purpose of getting these people healthy and back in shape. This is exactly what Hitler was trying to breed, a superior race. The root of the word Nordic is from the French Nordique from nor, north, from Old French Nort from Old English north, see Nair, in Indo-European roots. North is a direction, not a nationality. So, once again the Nordics don't have a nationality. We will look up the word Scandinavia, but first let's look at the phonetic similarities between the words Norf and naughty. Naughty means behaving disobediently or mischievously, indecent, improper, wicked, immoral. And that's exactly what they are, wicked. The root of this word is from Middle English naughty, wicked from naught, nothing, and evil from Old English naught, meaning nothing. Now let's take a look at Scandinavia. Scandinavia is a region of northern Europe consisting of Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. Finland, Iceland, and the Faroe Islands are often included in this region. According to the reference library, Scandinavian means, of or relating to Scandinavia or to its peoples, languages, or cultures. However, Scandinavian also means 1. A native or inhabitant of Scandinavia. 2. See North Germanic. Thus the Scandinavian are Germans, who are Greeks, and this again ties into Greek mythology. Now let's take a look at Italy. Italy is a peninsula of southern Europe projecting into the Mediterranean Sea between the Tyrrhenian and Adriatic seas. The Italians are the inhabitants of Italy. Italian is also the Romance language of the Italians and an official language of Switzerland. Italian comes from the Italian word Italiano, from French Italia, from Latin Italia, from Vitilia, Italy, meaning originally land of cattle, and is related to the Latin vitulus, meaning calf. Now let's take a look at Poland. Poland is a country of Central Europe bordering on the Baltic Sea. Polish are the people of Poland. According to the reference library, Polish is of or relating to Poland or its people, their language, or culture. The word Polish comes from the Middle English Polishan, from Old French polire polis from Latin potere, from an Indo-European root. The Polish language is a member of the West Slavic group of the Slavic subfamily and of the Indo-European family of languages. Polish is also the Slavic language of the Poles. Poles are defined as a native or inhabitant of Poland, a person of Polish descent. The word Poles comes from Greek Pole, singular of Poland, from Middle High German Polen, plural of Poiane, from Poland, Polion, meaning Poles, field dwellers from Pole, meaning field. This again is referring to where they dwelt, being beast of the field as mentioned in Genesis 3:14, not signifying a nationality. Also, if you look up the word Polak, it is an offensive slang used as a disparaging term for a person of Polish birth or descent, a native of Poland, a Pole, Polish Polak from Slavic Polji, field, in Indo-European roots. Now let's take a look at Russia. Russia is a former empire of Eastern Europe and Northern Asia. A Russian is an inhabitant of Russia, its language, or culture. A native or inhabitant of the Soviet Union, also the Slavic language of the Russians that is the official language of the Soviet Union. Russian also comes from medieval Latin Russianus, from Old Russian Rossi, from Old Norse, rodsmen, seafarers from rodder, rowing, in Indo-European roots. Again, Russian means rowing, which is an action, not a nationality. European Russia was occupied by Indo-European and Ural-Altaic peoples, from about the 2nd millennium BC. Among the peoples present in the steppe north of the Black Sea, were the Cimmerians. The Cimmerians, meaning very dark or gloomy from Greek mythology, are one of a mythical people described by Homer as inhabiting a land of perpetual darkness. The word Cimmerian comes from the Latin Cimmerii, the Cimmerians from Greek Kimmeroi. This again ties in Greek mythology. The Russian people, who form the vast majority of the population, trace their origins to the medieval Slavic state of Kievan Rus. The Slavs probably came from southern Poland and the Baltic shore and settled in the region of mixed forest and meadowlands, north of the fertile but unprotected steppe lands of the south. Now let's take a look at Netherlands. Netherlands is commonly known as Holland. Its history ties back to the Holy Roman Empire, inhabited by the Germanic tribes during Roman times. The region passed to the Franks in the 4th to the 8th century, and the Holy Roman Empire in the 10th century. The word, nether comes from the Middle English nether, knit here, from Old English, meaning lower, from the adverb neoer, nioer, meaning downward. And the word land means the solid ground of the earth. So, this signifying the people of the Netherlands lived in the lower part of the land, which is where they got their name from. Again, no nationality. The word Holland comes from the Dutch Holland, from earlier Holtland, meaning woodland, from Middle Dutch Holt, hout, meaning wood. So this again speaks about where they resided, not their nationality. The people of Holland are also known as Dutch. When you look up the word Dutch, it means of or relating to the Netherlands or its people or culture. Of or relating to the Dutch language, German. Of or relating to any of the Germanic peoples or languages. You see, it ties right back to the Germans, which ties back to the Greek mythology again. Now let's take a look at Portugal. The Portuguese are from Spain. Portugal was not a separate country from Spain until 1143 AD. The inhabitants of Spain tie their origin to the Phoenicians, Greeks and Romans. This basically says again that they have no nationality, because Phoenician is not a nationality, it is a color, Phoenicia. The Greeks and the Romans tie their origin to mythological gods. So, again, the Portuguese have no nationality. Now let's deal with the Irish. The reference library defines Irish as, of or relating to Ireland or its people, language, or culture, from the Old English Eros, the Irish, CP, in Indo-European roots. An abbreviation for Ireland is IRE, which is defined as anger, or wrath. So Ireland or the Irish goes back to an emotion. Again, this has nothing to do with their nationality, or does it? Irish are the people of Ireland who speak Irish, English and Gaelic. When you define the word Gael, you get a Gaelic-speaking Celt of Scotland, Ireland, or the Isle of Man. A Scottish Highlander. From the Scottish Gaelic Gael, Irish Gaelic Gaedheal, both from Old Irish Goidel. So when you research the word Goidehc, you get a branch of the Celtic languages that includes Irish Gaelic, Scottish Gaelic, and Manx. So the word Goidehc ties back to the Celts. Gaelic is defined as, of or relating to the Gaels. Of, relating to, or characteristic of Goidehc. From Old Irish Goidel, Gael possibly from Old Welsh, Goidel, Gwydel. Now notice this, the word Manx is defined as, of or relating to the Isle of Man or its people, language, or culture. The extinct Goidelic language of the Manx. Its root or origin is stated as such, alteration of Old Norse monsk from mon meaning man, or Isle of Man. Now ask yourself, why is this the only European country that ties itself back to man? The Irish people are broken up into many groups. One known group are the Celts, who are defined as Celt, Celt, also Celt, and French Cet, sing. Of Celt from Latin Celte from Greek Keltoi, meaning, one of an Indo-European people originally of Central Europe and spreading to Western Europe, the British Isles, and southeast to Galatia during pre-Roman times, especially a Briton or Gaul. A speaker of a modern Celtic language or a descendant of such a speaker, especially a modern Gael, Welshman, Cornishman, or Breton. According to Charles Squire, the Celts were short, dark-skinned, dark-eyed and dark-haired. He also states that their language belonged to a class called Hamitic, and that they were originally from Africa. Tacitus, who lived approximately between 1955 to 120 AD, was a Roman public official and historian. He says this about the Celts: the dark complexion of the Silures or black Celts and unusually curly hair. Celt is also a common prehistoric tool of stone or metal, shaped like a chisel or axe head. Its root comes from the late Latin celtis, or chisel. Celt is also a name of African species of lotus. The other two tribes were the Fir-Bolg and the Tuatha De Danann. The Irish are originally a graftation made by the Hopi tribe of Native Americans, descendants of the Egyptian Hapi, son of Horus. This was done to extract the disagreeableness or evil out of the Caucasians. This graftation took place in Central America in the Yucatan, Guatemala. Another graftation took place in the Aegean Sea in the caves or grottos of Greece. This graftation, headed by Yakub scientist Sheshbazzar, also known as Haggai, produced the Flugelrods. Their characteristics are blonde-haired, blue-eyed, flat head, no chin, with downward features. Before Yakub's team came to Greece, there were already pale beings existing in the caves there. They were the disagreeable spirit children of Diabolus, from the star Kulub, or Keleb, the dog star. Greece became their home base after being banished from the dog star. They would be reborn through human parents who were of pale skin. The scientist Yakub experiment would eventually be carried out in the Isles of Greece. His followers would seek out these beings for reasons unknown. These pale-skinned beings from the dog star were also used in Yakub's graftation. Yakub the scientist was a being born from an unlawful union of a Danakil named Yiskok, who were known for their large craniums, and a Taro named Lucinas, who had a cone-shaped head.